What's going on YouTube? Thank you guys for tuning into another video. Today, as you guys can see from the title, we are reacting to a Joe Bart what actually happens when you die video. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. Peace.
This is what happens when you die.
So here's a question that literally every single one of us will eventually have an answer to. What really happens to your body when you die? And I'm not talking
I don't think everybody will have an answer to that. Yeah, he's not talking about religiously or philosophically, but even on just a base biological sense, you're not going to know what happens to your body when you die. That's if you die in a peaceful way in a hospital bed on hospice. If you get hit by a car and your body gets eviscerated, you're not going to know. You're just going to, it's going to be lights out, right?
You guys know those people that went on the submarine? I feel like that's a good example of that. Like, they were in the submarine. What is it called? Ocean Gate? And literally instantaneously exploded, actually imploded on themselves. Like, one moment they were alive, thinking, enjoying the ride, and literally the next moment, probably quicker than a millisecond, it was done. They didn't feel anything. Their brain couldn't even process it. Like, that's insane.
Like, if you get crushed, like, for example, the people that died on that submarine, what was the name of that submarine? It was like 2 summers ago. They went down, they were going to go see the Titanic. Ocean Gate. The people that died on that Ocean Gate submarine don't even know that, well, I don't want to say they don't know that they're dead. If there's an afterlife, they know that they're dead. But they don't even know that they died. Or they didn't even know that they were going to die. Right? Like, they
didn't even know the moment that, like, death was upon them, basically, is what he's saying. And I agree for sure.
got the brain needs like a certain amount of milliseconds to process pain. They died so fast that it was like dead. Like, they wouldn't, it's not, they didn't feel anything. They were alive and then immediately died. But not died like their heart stopped. Like their body was separated into red mist.
If you want to feel like the millisecond difference of like receiving pain, just get something like hot. Like, if you warm up something super hot, right, and you get like a bowl and it's hot, if you touch it, you don't feel it immediately. It takes like, there's like a lag. Like, our Wi-Fi is just lagging, so it takes like a second. Like, you pick up a bowl and for like a split second you don't even feel how hot it is, and then instantly then you feel it. It's kind of weird, but that's how you should test about like how quickly your brain can feel things.
about the philosophical or spiritual aspect, though we will touch on some fascinating near-death experiences later. I'm talking about the actual anatomical and physiological cascade of events that occurs in your body during the process of dying.
And the craziest thing that I have heard, I don't know if it's true of every individual that's like slowly dying, but when you die of old age, one of the things that they say is, you know, a sign for if you're dealing with somebody that's old is if they start talking to you about memories they've never brought up before. Like, my grandpa, before he died, started talking about one of his childhood dogs to my family, and it was like a memory he's never brought up before. It was a memory he said he'd never remembered until like recently. Like, he hadn't mentioned it, thought about it in 30, 40 years, you know? You start reaching back to like childhood memories when you're like 80.
You know what I think is really weird? Like, a lot of the time when people pass away, I heard that like the moments before they pass, like a few days or maybe like a week, they actually like have more life to them than they have had recently. So let's say you're like dealing with like a grandma or grandpa who's been kind of, you know, on a downwards spiral just in terms of their health. Like a week before they actually pass, they like have more life to them. And it was kind of weird. I experienced something a little bit similar to that. It was in 2020. Like, one of my uncles had COVID and he like had struggled for like a week. And then I remember the night that he passed, before he went to bed, he was like, "I'm feeling better. I'll be at work tomorrow." And literally he went to bed and didn't wake up. So it's kind of crazy how there are weird signs that you kind of will see before somebody's death. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
You're dying. Like, that means you're close. And he died like a week later. Like, and then it's just like very weird. Like, you get in this like trance-like state. You know, when they say when you die, your like brainstem stays alive for like like 5 or 10 minutes or something, you relive your life. That's why like your life flashes before your eyes. I don't know if that's fully true of everybody, but we'll see.
In the hours after death, because your body doesn't just turn off like flipping a light switch. There's a whole sequence of events that happens, some of which are extremely fascinating. So today, we're gonna cover these events, talk about what we do know, what we don't know, and as I already hinted, touch on some of the unexplainable events at the end. It's going to be a departed one. So let's jump into this anatomical and physiological awesomeness.
God, I feel like I'm watching a video for school.
So let's
That
start with
intro.
what happens in the moments leading up to death. Now, obviously, death can occur in many different ways. Cardiac arrest, trauma, illness, cancer, but regardless of the exact cause,
I think the best way to die is I'm 85, I'm walking, you know, out of the bathroom. We just got done a nice family dinner. Everybody left, and I just go, and I die. No, I don't want to die in my sleep.
What do you guys think? I don't know. Like, do you guys want to die at an old age? I'll ask you that. And let me know in the comments. Because, like, for me, I don't want to die with, like, none of my personality, none of my brain. You know what I mean? Like, I want to die still with the ability to comprehend things, have a sense of humor, to think straight. Like, I don't want to be schizophrenic. I don't want to be senile. I don't want to be put in a home and pass away. Like, I want to be able to still be really living. So I think I would like to pass away, you know, hopefully before that occurs. Hopefully I can make it to an old age and still be, you know, smart and witty. But if I don't, I would rather pass before my health declines, really. So let me know, how old do you guys really want to pass? How do you want to pass?
I want to know I'm going, right? I want to consciously be like, this is it, right? Dying in my sleep sucks. I think dying in my sleep would be fire if you told me you're going to die tonight. Like, in your sleep, you're going to die tonight. Because I would be able to, like, come to terms with it. I think I need that 5-minute gap to be like, fuck, it's over. You know? Like, I'm dying. Does that make sense? I don't want my family to worry. No, I'm not saying, like, I walk out to a family barbecue and just fucking collapse. I'm saying family barbecue, everybody goes home, and then I die. And it was like, oh, that was nice, you know? Nice last day, you know, fucking chilling. Then you go out in style. I think hospice is a pretty bad way to go. I mean, they do have you hyped up on drugs.
Like, I don't want to be in the hospital when I pass. I want to just be in my crib. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind if I passed away in my sleep. Not anytime soon, obviously. But I wouldn't mind if I was, you know, up in age, and it's just painless. And I went to bed and I just didn't wake up. But yeah, hopefully not for a long, long time, chat.
But at that point, you don't even really know you're dying. Like, when you're on hospice and they're, like, filling you with morphine and shit, you're just, like, unconscious.
there's a common pathway the body follows once certain critical systems.
Want to die in a field watching the clouds? That's very specific, some Russian. My philosophy professor from Korea told me when he is dying, he's going to walk into the woods and lay by a tree. And he was dead serious. He said, I'm going to die in the woods. Like, and he was dead serious. He was like, I'm going to die in the woods and the animals are going to eat me.
And so let's use
I was like, respect it.
cardiac arrest as the primary example, since it's one of the most studied scenarios. When your heart stops beating, blood is no longer being pumped throughout your body. Remember, blood is delivering oxygen and nutrients to all of your cells, particularly to that very demanding organ sitting inside your skull, the human brain. Within about 15 to 20 seconds of your heart stopping, you lose consciousness. This happens because your brain, which makes up only about 2% of your body weight, but uses roughly 20% of your oxygen supply, is immediately starved of that oxygenated blood. The neurons in your cerebral cortex, the outer portion of the brain responsible for consciousness, thought, and awareness, starts to shut down almost immediately. But here's where things get interesting. Even though you're unconscious and your heart is stopped, your brain does not instantly die. In fact, research shows that measurable brain activity can persist for a short period of time after the heart stops beating. Several studies have documented.
Bro, but like you.
What I heard was your brain is alive for about 7 seconds when you pass, and it just replays like every single memory you've ever had. And the reason it does that is our brain constantly works with past experiences. So it tries to guess what's going to happen next. And since we've never experienced death at all, it's scrambling. It's literally scrambling to compare one thing to another. That's why when we dream, right? And let's say you ever had those falling dreams and you're about to literally hit the ground and die, it ends right there because we have no past memory of that, and our brain cannot literally display what's going on because it literally has no past experience of that. The same way in our dreams, everybody you see in your dream, you've seen in real life. Your brain cannot generate faces or create faces. It only creates, it only puts in your dreams what it's seen before. So that's pretty crazy.
You know how shitty that will be if like those, like, is it going to be a cool memory and like something that's nice? Because like, what are the odds that like you have a heart attack, you're dying, your brain's starved of oxygen, and your brain's still functioning and showing like your conscious memories, and it's just like dog shit, you know, like fucking weird memories. You're like, why am I thinking about? And then you die. Like I think back.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, in those 7 seconds, they say your life flashes before your eyes, but who knows what memories are actually flashing, you know? Especially if you're like if you're dying in like a crisis and your brain is just playing bad memories to try to, you know, compare it to something and figure out what's going to happen next. That might be absolutely ridiculous to die like that.
Back to like, you know, fucking people always joke, they'll be like, when I die, I'll see this. It'll be like OG Minecraft season 3 Fortnite. Like, what if I die and I'm like going back to my Concord sponsor, right? And I'm like 85 and I'm like, fuck, wow, I forgot about that game. And then I die. And I'm not joking. Like, I know that was a joke to use like the Concord as an example, but I'm saying like, what if it's just like some stupid fucking memory? Like, I'm just like remembering me at like some random diner. I'm like, why do I care about this?
In some cases, EEG recordings have shown brain waves continuing for up to 10 minutes, although this activity rapidly becomes weaker and more disorganized over time. A 2023 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences observed a brief surge of gamma wave activity at the moment of death in a small number of patients after life support was withdrawn. Gamma waves are often associated with processes like memory retrieval, information integration, and conscious awareness. However, it's important to note, seeing gamma activity does not necessarily mean a person is consciously experiencing these events.
I just don't want it to be a scared death. You know, like, I think having a good emotion at the moment of your death is great, you know? Like, if I'm going to go out, or not if, when I go out, it would be awesome to be able to be happy in those last moments, you know? Or just, like, not upset. Like, that would suck if you're, like, dying and you're consciously aware that you're basically dead and you're, like, freaking out about it in your own brain. Like, that would suck. Because then it's like, oh, fuck, I'm dying, and then the lights go out. Like, obviously, you're not going to look back on it and be like, oh, that sucked, because you'll be fucking dead. But, like, it would be nice to go out with a bang than a fizzle. That's one thing. This is random side conversation. I know I joked about this, where my friend was, like, talking about how if there was, like, a terrorist on a plane, he would be like, I'm dying about it. And he was like, I'm going to run at them. And I think that carries through with anything where it's like, you know how in movies there's, like, somebody's pointing a gun to your head and you're, like, begging for your life and then they still shoot you? Like, what a shitty way to die. Like, I feel like it's better to be like, fuck you, and, like, attack. And then you die that way versus being, like, you know, just, like, pleading for your life and then getting shot. Like, that would suck.
Become briefly active during the dying process. But how is it possible for brain activity to continue at all after the heart stops? Well, one reason is that neurons don't run out of energy instantaneously.
What would you say is the worst death, like an awful scenario? Being in a coma that you're consciously aware of and then dying. Like, that's really fun. I think that's like, well, like, obviously you could say, like, being burned alive, right? Yeah, drowning. But I'm talking about, like, a conscious awareness of, like, you're in a coma.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of terrible ways to go, but that's a pretty bad one. Like, imagine you're just literally, basically permanently asleep, but you're aware that you're asleep and you can't do anything about it. You can't wake up, you can't communicate with anybody. Like people come see you and you can't even respond. Like that would probably be ridiculous. And not only that, people will probably be like saying and thinking like there's no point of him being in this coma, because they don't even know that your conscious is still operating. But I will say like painful deaths are probably for me, um, would be the worst way to go. Like for an example, if I get older and I'm single and not like I just don't have anybody on my side, you know what I mean? I don't have any connection with anybody. I'll probably get a motorcycle, and just because if I'm driving around and I get hit, it's pretty much instantaneous, guaranteed death, and you won't feel anything. So I wouldn't want to be burned alive. I wouldn't want to be in any sort of pain, buried alive, suffocation, drowning. I'm good off all of that. I wouldn't want any pain. I think the best way to go is something painless, seamless, and you're just out of here.
Coma and you can't move, but you're still aware, and it's like a prolonged coma.
While neurons do not store energy in large reserves,
Hearing your family pull the plug on you, well, that would never happen.
they do contain very small, rapidly turning over amounts of ATP that
Drowning's supposed to be very peaceful. I think that's freezing to death, not drowning.
are already in use at the moment circulation stops. Neurons also contain a small amount of phosphocreatine, which can briefly buffer ATP levels for a few seconds when energy demand suddenly spikes. In addition, neurons can temporarily rely on anaerobic energy pathways, such as glycolysis, that do not require oxygen. Also, supporting cells in the brain called astrocytes store small amounts of glycogen, which can be broken down into lactate and shuttled into neurons as an emergency fuel source when blood flow is lost. However, all of these backup systems are extremely limited. Without oxygenated blood, mitochondrial ATP production rapidly collapses. Ion gradients across neuronal membranes fail, and normal electrical signals break down within minutes, which is why prolonged cardiac arrest leads to irreversible brain injury and death if blood flow and oxygen is not quickly restored. But these short-lived energy buffers may help explain why organized brain activity can briefly persist after the heart stops. And they may also contribute to some of the vivid experiences people report during near-death states, which again, we'll talk about in more detail later on. Now, while your brain is going through this process, the rest of your body cells
Why is there bodies in the background? This is a set. This is like a classroom. As you can see, there's chairs.
also beginning to die, but at different rates. Your brain cells are kind of the divas of the human body. Neurons begin to suffer irreversible injury within about 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen, but other cells are more resilient. This is because many of these cells have larger
Well, I just find like neuroconnections fascinating. Like there's like electrical impulses in my brain that can formulate a visual image of a memory I had 15 years ago in my mind. Like I'm literally seeing myself use a green stretch band in preschool in my brain. Like, how the fuck is it holding that information for?
That is actually insane to think like your fondest, oldest memories, your brain somehow holds on to that. If I'm being honest, in my opinion, I think that we don't even use the full power of our brain. I think we're so complex. I think we have the ability to do so many things that we can't even imagine. We just haven't figured it out. Simply like the fact that we can feel certain emotions like nostalgia, love, hatred, and even more like complex emotions like grief, regret, things like that. Things that literally only human beings can experience as far as we know, just like, with other animals on Earth. I think our potential is even more than what we have so far, what we have done right now. I think we have the ability to communicate with each other without even using words, just like sending messages to brain, because like we operate on wavelengths as well, and those are, you know what I mean? I just think we literally have not figured out the technique and how to do it. you know?
That period of time. I understand, like, yeah, the electrical connections and the neuroconnectivity in your brain and how brain memories are processed and stored. But, like, where is that memory getting stored for that period of time? And then what's even weirder is that you have a level of memory recall that you can't control and memory recall that you can, right? If somebody were to ask you, do you remember this? And you were like, oh, yeah, and you could go through the memory and you could visualize it in your brain, and maybe it's like you in preschool going down a slide or something. You'd be like, the slide was yellow. I remember this, blah, blah, blah. But then there's memories that you don't recall, you can't recall until something triggers a connection that's like a broken bridge that's restored, right? Like you hear a song that you haven't heard in 10 years, and then randomly that sparks a memory of something that you haven't thought of in a decade and otherwise would seemingly be lost forever, right? Like if say I'm like, you know, just going through my day and I hear a song, I'm like, wow, that brings back a memory I haven't thought of in 10 years. If I hadn't heard that song, would that memory be lost in the cosmos of my brain forever? Or would it still stay there in some subunit of my brain? Like, where is that?
Glycogen reserves, lower overall energy demands, and a greater ability to rely on anaerobic metabolism when oxygen is no longer available. Skin cells, for example, can survive for several hours after death. And believe it or not, some cells in the body can remain metabolically active for days. In fact, studies have shown that gene activity in certain cells, such as certain white blood cells and muscle satellite cells, can still be detected up to about 96 hours after death. But just like the neurons, these cells eventually reach a point where they can no longer generate enough ATP to maintain normal function. Ion pumps begin to fail, calcium floods into the cell, destructive enzymes are released, and the cell essentially begins to digest itself from the inside, a process known as autolysis. During this dying process, there are also physical signs that medical providers look for. The skin may become pale or take on a bluish tint, especially in the extremities due to the lack of oxygenated blood, and this is called cyanosis. Breathing patterns may also change dramatically, and in some cases, providers observe a pattern called Cheyne-Stokes respirations, where breathing becomes irregular, with periods of...
Dude, it's like the death gurgle.
I was just about to say
Is
the
what they
death
call
rattle.
it. I
Something
heard
like
it
that.
before, bro. It's fucking scary. Where like when somebody's on hospice and they're dying, they start breathing. It's not like it's like sleep apnea, but I don't know. It's like even more prolonged. Like yeah, it's like the death rattle. And they're when they inhale, it kind of sounds like there's fluid, and they only breathe like 3 times a minute. Like right now, you're probably breathing like constantly. You're just like inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. But when you're
Have you guys ever had manual breathing after smoking, bro? Two things. This is like completely off topic, but I saw manual breathing and a meme, and it's triggering me. When, like, if you maybe your first time smoking or whatever the case may be, maybe it's your 1 billionth. It could be random, but sometimes it gets you on the manual breathing mode, and that is the worst mode ever. Worst mode ever.
dying, you slowly breathe less and less to where like you literally might go like that's what it sounds like. And then you won't breathe for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. And so it's like if you're somebody that's watching somebody on hospice, you're supposed to wait like a long time and then you call somebody to come proclaim them as dead, because like you might actually think somebody's dead because they're not breathing, but they're still alive.
rapid breathing followed by periods of no breathing at all. Body temperature begins to drop, though interestingly,
Now I'm breathing manually? Okay, sorry.
in some cases there can be a brief spike in temperature shortly before death. The pupils of the eyes become fixed and dilated because the muscles controlling them are no longer receiving signals from the brain. And in many cases, there's a release of urine and stool as the sphincter muscles relax.
I heard that like when you pass away, almost like everybody like in an accident or whatever the case may be, like when you pass away, you literally pee and poop yourself. And it makes sense because like those two things are a muscle, and when you die, like the muscles relax, and yeah, which is kind of crazy. I actually think about that a lot. Like whenever that happens, whenever I do pass, I'm just gonna piss and poop all over myself.
Not the most distinguished aspect of death, but it's the reality of the physiological process. What happens to the body in the hours immediately following death? Well, first up is something called algor mortis, which is just a fancy Latin term for the cooling of the body. Your body normally maintains a temperature of around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius due to ongoing metabolic processes. But once these processes stop, your body begins to equilibrate with the ambient temperature around it. Early on, the body is estimated to cool at roughly 1 to 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit per hour, though this rate is not constant and can vary widely based on factors like the person's body composition, what they're wearing, air movement, and the surrounding environmental temperature. This is actually one of the methods forensic scientists use to help estimate time of death, but it's considered an approximate tool rather than a precise measurement because of all of these variables. And next is livor mortis, also called lividity. Remember, your heart is no longer pumping blood through your vessels, so gravity takes over and blood begins to pool in the lowest parts of the body. If someone dies lying on their back, you'll see a purple to reddish discoloration on the back of the body, the buttocks, and the backs of the legs, where the blood is starting to settle. This process typically begins within about 20 minutes to a few hours after.
Bro, I don't like any type of gore. Like, I stay off of Instagram reels because of gore. Like, when they just showed that, I didn't like any of that. I could probably never, ever be a doctor or something like that. I just don't like any of that.
Death and gradually becomes fixed over time.
See, bro, this is like more and more where I'm like, yo, why do they gotta drain my ass, bro? Just throw me in the woods. Throw me in the woods. Like my Korean philosophy professor said, let him eat me.
Often by about 8 to 12 hours.
Feed the animals of the wilderness.
Depending on conditions. Fixed means that if you press on the skin, the discoloration won't blanch, and it will no longer shift to a new location if the body is repositioned.
Oh, so there's no, like, if you go like this, it wouldn't, like, refill. It'll just stay the same. Yeah, you're poking a dead body.
This phenomenon is also used in forensic investigations.
What's uncanny, if you've never been to a wake or an open casket funeral, is every person you've ever touched is warm. Even if they're cold, it's like, oh, it's because my hands are cold. Like, if you touch, like, somebody's forearm, you're like, oh, they're warm. When you touch a dead body, it's room temp. And it's like, it feels, not like a mannequin, but it feels off. Like, really.
I've never seen a dead body in my life, I don't think.
Off. And obviously, you would think that.
I don't
but
want to.
You don't
either,
recognize it until you're actually like, oh, and you touch the hand of a dead person. It's like, yeah, they feel really dead, even if they make them look alive.
Because if a body shows lividity in areas that don't match how the body was found, it suggests that the body was moved after death. Then we have probably the most well-known post-mortem change, rigor mortis, the stiffening of the body. This happens because of what's going on at the cellular level inside the muscles. Remember how the cells lose their ability to produce ATP after death? Well, ATP is actually required for muscle relaxation, not just for contraction. When a muscle contracts, little protein filaments called actin and myosin bind together.
Wait, so when you die, you could tighten up like that? Like just naturally?
Unbind them and relax the muscle, you need ATP. But after death, there's no ATP being produced. So initially, for the first few hours...
I'm not making this whole conversation, but isn't that why some people tried to say that when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, he was just dead immediately, and not like when they were saying like, oh, we might be able to save him, because he immediately went into like this fixated state.
Hours after death.
That was so random to bring up, I feel like. I've seen so many different things and theories on that, on Charlie Kirk's death. Okay, if you guys want to really see something crazy, look up when he got assassinated. There's like 5 people, I'm not even kidding, that jump over the table to look like they're gonna go help him. They all just like grab something off of him and run away. Like 5 people. And I honestly, like, I don't really ever think too deep into like conspiracy theories, this, that, and the third. But when I saw that, I was like, okay, like there's got to be a reason as to why 5 people jumped over as soon as he got shot to go help him, and they literally just grabbed something off him and run away. Like, I don't know about that. It's kind of crazy, kind of crazy.
death, muscles are actually relaxed because there's still some residual ATP present.
That was a reflex.
This phase is actually called primary flaccidity, but as that ATP gets
Rigor mortis takes hours. Then what the hell happened with him?
used up, the actin and myosin filaments become locked together, and the muscles become rigid.
Hands folded is due to brain damage. Oh, yeah, because people in X Games do that, right? Like, when you see a guy go for a skate trick and he, like, falls on his head, it's showing severe brain damage.
Oh.
Because they'll go, like, their arms will
I
go.
think they're I think he's talking about like the Tua thing, maybe like when you get hit in the head and you do your finger. It's just like a neurological, not a reaction, but just like something is going wrong neurologically. Obviously, when you take a severe blow to the head and it causes because everything is connected. Obviously, like you send messages from your brain to your body. So when you get hit in the head, concussion, things are gonna happen weird to the body. Even when in UFC fighters, like when they get knocked out and they're like this, same thing.
Oh, like straight up. Or not straight up, like in, rather.
Rigor mortis typically begins in the smaller muscles of the face.
Oh my god, bro. That is a naked man, dude.
I didn't even see that.
Thank fuck they blurred that shit.
I did not see that.
Maximum
Actually, I was
rigidity
wiping
at
my
about
nose.
12 to 24 hours after death, depending on conditions. Then, interestingly, rigor mortis reverses. After roughly 24 to 48 hours, ongoing autolysis and bacterial decomposition causes muscle proteins, including actin and myosin, to break down, which causes the protein bonds to dissolve and the muscles begin to relax. This phase is referred to as secondary flaccidity. And there are obviously...
I don't want to say I don't give a fuck about any of this, but I don't care about any of this shit outside of what I'm consciously going to see. Okay, when I'm dead, my body will turn purple and I'm going to shit myself. Awesome. I'm dead. Why do I need to know that? Right? Like, I'm going to okay, I'm dead. I poop my pants and fucking piss myself. And my blood starts, fucking pooling at wherever gravity. If I die standing up, it's going to pull at my feet. If I die laying down, it's going to pull at my fucking back. Awesome. Right? I'm dead. I don't care. I'm dead. I don't care because I don't exist. Right? So whatever happens to my meat sack is up to the fishes. They can fucking eat me for all I care. Oh, how embarrassing. I pooped myself. I have bigger problems. I'm dead. I have bigger problems. I'm dead now, right? Actually, I have no problems anymore because I can't have a problem.
The corneas of the eyes become cloudy within a couple of hours after death because the
Yo, that's what dead fish look like.
cells that normally pump fluid out of the cornea stop functioning, leading to dehydration and swelling. And if the eyes are open, this clouding can happen even faster due to evaporation. The skin also begins to take on a marbled appearance, known as marbling, which occurs as red blood cells break down and bacteria spread along the superficial blood vessels during early decomposition, creating a blanching,
Oh
Ooh,
my
I don't like
god.
that. Yeah.
purplish pattern beneath
I
the
don't like
skin.
that.
And even though
How do they fix that? If you're like a mortician, do they drain all that out? Like, how are they fixing your skin? Makeup? Well, and they put you in clothes. Normally at a funeral, you only really see the face and the hands. Maybe the forearms. Everything else is covered up because they close the top part of it. Well, no, actually, they do have that open, but you're wearing shoes and everything. Dressing a dead body must be really weird.
obvious on the outside, decomposition is already beginning at the cellular level within minutes of death, as cells undergo autolysis and start to break.
So they'll see your penis. Yes, they'll see your penis. Unless you get cremated. Actually, even then, they're probably stripping you naked before they put you in the cremation. So, yes. Bro said, bet. Like, you're excited? I don't want that. Why do you care? Why do you care? You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, they're going to see your dick when you're dead. That's bro, they're going to see your dick when you're dead. Okay, awesome, right? Who cares?
Take longer to develop. But also, there's this bacteria.
Because it's small. Yo, ideally, you're going to be like 85. Yo, at that point,
Yo, is it going to be like A millimeter? Like what? I don't know what happens with your with your penis when you get older. Like, does it shrivel? I don't even know, yo. I don't know. Why are we even talking
They're
about
not
this,
really
yo?
caring, right? You're not even caring at that point.
That lives inside you, especially in your gut, like in the intestines. And this bacteria will start to break down process known as putrefaction, sets the stage for bloating and other visible changes that typically develop over the next 1 to several days. Again, depending on environmental factors.
They won't know I'm a grower.
Yo, what?
You leave a
Okay,
note, you're like, yo, please don't judge.
But now, let's shift gears and talk about something that's absolutely
Oh my God.
fascinating and frankly, still pretty mysterious from a scientific standpoint. Near-death experiences, or NDEs. Near-death experiences.
Near-death experiences, we had a watch when I was a senior in college. Actually, I was a junior. I took senior sem my junior year.
You know what? I feel like with near-death experiences, you come in contact with that way more often than you think. Like, just in terms of like driving. Like I was driving literally yesterday, and I was at a red light. I was in the left lane, right? So it was me. It was somebody in front of me, me, left lane. In the lane next to me, there was a guy in a truck, in a van, coming up. The van literally got so close to blasting the guy that was at the light. Like, and for that person, he doesn't even know, like, he could have died right there. So I feel like it's a little bit different in that sense. Like, when you actually realize you're in a near-death experience, it kind of, I think it'll impact you more. It'll obviously impact you more versus, like, the guy in the truck. He had no idea. So, but I feel like we come in contact with near-death experiences way more than we even realize.
It was really weird because they only offered it every 2 years, and I had to take a junior year because then if I didn't, I would have had to be a fifth year. Anyways, junior year, I'm taking senior sem. We had to watch this documentary, one class about NDEs. NDEs, and then also we watched a documentary about people, side note, I'll get back to the NDEs. We watched a documentary about people that were able to recall a previous life that they had had. This was really not unrefutable, unexplainable from me. And I don't want to say it made me kind of lean towards like some level of spiritualism, but it was weird. Where there were instances, you could look them up, where like a 5-year-old would be like, my name was blank and blank, and I died in a plane crash in, Vietnam or Japan. And he would recall like very specific things that would be feedable to him, and they would fact check this shit and it would show up. And as they aged, they would forget it and they wouldn't even be able to recall it themselves. Like they interviewed this one like 15-year-old kid and they were like, "Do you remember any of this?" And he was like, "No." But when he was like 5 years old, he used to like avidly talk about like this past life he had lived. Part of me is like,
What do you guys think that really means, chat? Like, do we really reincarnate as another person? Is it inconsistent? Like some people reincarnate to a new person. I've never experienced that where I have thoughts of a past life. I've definitely heard of it. I know that one story of the kid who maybe he was an axe murderer or he got murdered by an axe, something like that. I've heard of that. I don't know if that's a story or a movie. I don't know, but I've heard of that. And I think it's very interesting that kid that Joe was talking about remembered when he was 5, but didn't remember when he was 15. That's very weird. Very, very weird. I don't know what the correlation between all that would be.
that's fake. But I don't really know about that. NDEs are weird because, like, near-death experiences, people try to use as a means to prove their religion. The problem is NDEs have proved every religion and every single thing, right? NDEs have proved Christianity, Islam, atheism, Buddhism, Hinduism, everything. Because NDEs are near-death experiences. You're not dead, right? So it's not, you can't use an NDE as proof for anything. Christianity's true, though. I'm not saying Christianity's not true. I'm not saying any religion's not true. I'm saying NDEs aren't usable for any belief set, atheism or not, right? Like, I'm not going to use an NDE to be like, well, some guy said he saw nothing. Because a near-death experience, you're not actually dead. Your heart just stopped, and your brain is, like, tripping out.
Are often life-changing, profound psychological events that occur when someone is close to death or in situations where death seems imminent. These can occur during cardiac arrest, severe trauma, under anesthesia, or even in situations where someone thinks they're about to die but are not actually in any physical danger. And here's the thing that makes NDEs so interesting. While they are not identical, many near-death experiences share many recurring themes across different cultures, ages, and backgrounds. People from completely different parts of the world, different religions, and different time periods often describe experiences with overlapping features. And even though the exact details can vary, it's this pattern of shared themes that has researchers so intrigued. Research by Dr. Bruce Grayson and others has identified several core features of near-death experiences. Not everyone experiences all of these features, but one of the most frequently reported features is an out-of-body experience. People describe a sensation of separating from their physical body and viewing it from an outside perspective, often from above. Some people report perceptions that later...
Chad, that is pretty insane. An out-of-body, legitimate out-of-body experience where you're literally above yourself watching. I don't know how to take that. For me personally, with religion and stuff like that, I'm not very religious. I wouldn't say I don't believe in religion, but I wouldn't say that I fully believe. I really just don't know. But hearing things like that, very, very crazy to hear. It's hard not, like, I believe in both things. I believe like in science and I believe in religion. So I feel like that's out-of-body experience has both. You know what I mean? But I think that's insane. Absolutely insane.
appear to match specific events that occurred during their resuscitation.
Am I insane? I feel like there was an experiment they tried to do where they held like a... Oh my god, maybe this is literally just like fiction. I feel like there was an experiment where somebody with an NDE, like every time there was like somebody that was dying, they would have like a number or something that was like pointed towards the ceiling that they couldn't see, but they would ask you if you knew the number. Yeah, they would put like a Post-it note above you in some way.
And as you can imagine, the timing and mechanisms behind what's causing these perceptions remains an area of active scientific debate. Dr. Sam Perina's AWARE study found that about 40% of cardiac arrest...
I'm on 5 grams of mushrooms right now. You look like an apple. What type of apple? Tell me I'm a Honeycrisp. I hope I'm not a Granny Smith. Or like a Macintosh. That would be the worst.
Survivors who were successfully resuscitated reported some form of recalled experience during their cardiac arrest.
40% of cardiac arrest survivors who were successfully resuscitated reported some recalled experience during cardiac arrest. Yeah, because they're still somewhat conscious.
Although many of these experiences were fragmented or nonspecific, and only a small number involved structured awareness. It's also important to note that clinically dead, in this context, refers to the absence of a detectable pulse, not necessarily confirmed absence of all brain activity. Around 30% of people who have NDEs also report moving through some kind of tunnel or dark space. This is often described as moving toward a light, sometimes rapidly.
And guess what that light is? When you're squeezing out of the hole when you're born. That's proof for reincarnation there, brother.
That's actually insane to think that they're really like the light at the end of the tunnel is something that people have actually recalled and experienced, and it's not really just, a lot of people use it as like just like a saying, but I don't know, who knows?
The light, you're in the fucking womb.
I feel like the people could lie. There's a chance that the people were lying. Who knows?
Your consciousness is being inserted into another person.
And sometimes with
I'm not saying I believe in reincarnation, but that does make sense.
the sensation of flying. The light is often described as brilliant, warm, loving, and unlike any earthly light. And many people describe it
Okay, maybe it's not.
as having
Maybe it's not the hospital lights.
a presence or personality. Plus, in positive NDEs, about 80% of people report an overwhelming sense of peace, contentment, and unconditional love, with many saying they didn't want to return to their physical body. But there are a small percentage of NDEs that can be distressing instead of positive. But many people also report encountering other beings, often deceased loved ones, and the identities of these beings frequently aligns with a person's cultural and religious background. Some people experience a rapid replay of significant life events, often from multiple perspectives, and some describe reaching a boundary that they understand they cannot cross if they want to return back to life. So what is actually happening during these experiences? Well, as we've learned today, we know the brain doesn't instantly shut down. We know brain activity can briefly persist, and in rare cases show transient surges after cardiac arrest, though this activity typically declines rapidly. We know certain neurochemicals are released, and much of this could possibly explain what is happening during near-death experiences. But we don't know how to fully explain detailed, coherent experiences or precisely when they occur, especially during periods when brain activity is expected to be severely impaired. We don't know how some people report perceptions that later appear accurate during periods of presumed unconsciousness, particularly given the limitations of EEG and other monitoring methods.
Oh, but you just can't take any of that shit for fucking fact is the problem. Like, I want to be like, oh, wow, the overwhelming sense of love and there being a better thing after. I'd be like, oh, that's sick. But it's like, they're not dead. Because anybody that, and nobody's actually died and come back. Like, you could say you've been like, oh, declared dead, but that's because your heart stopped. You could say like, oh, I died. I died and came back.
Experiences show recurring themes across many cultures and time periods. So yes, physiologically, we do know quite a bit about what happens as a person dies. The heart stops, consciousness fades within seconds, brain cells begin dying within minutes, and the body...
Jesus did. Chat. You know, I'm saying like you're on the hospital bed and you're declared brain dead and then come back. I'm not talking about the crucifixion of Jesus. I'm saying the experience of somebody, you know what I mean.
Body undergoes predictable changes over the following hours. But what happens to consciousness, to that sense of you, remains a very interesting question. And whether near-death experiences represent consciousness beyond the brain and this life, or whether they reflect the brain's final neurological activity, these experiences continue to challenge what we think we know about what happens after we die. And maybe that's okay. Maybe some questions are meant to keep us wondering, or at least keep us wondering until that moment when each of us finds out for ourselves.
Yep, that's true. Unless you get hit by a car. Or die in your sleep. Or get shot. Or something like that. Like, there's a few things where it's like, you know, that's not a guarantee. But that was a good video. Got a little boring in the middle when he was talking about the blood pooling shit. I was like, nah, I'm not really tapped into that. But
Chat, there it is. For me personally, I thought it was a cool video, really good video, but I think we learned more so like what happens to us as we're dying. And I think in terms of what happens after we die, it's just a huge question mark. It's just like those people were just kind of giving us their experiences, but like I said, they could have been lying, or just, I don't know, they could have just been saying stuff. But chat, let me know if you guys like these reaction videos. I actually really enjoy doing it. This is our first ever on the channel. I'm planning on doing more, reacting to Joe, Bart, and even doing my own reactions to certain videos. So if you like it, let me know. Thank you for tuning in. Another Life of an Ant video. Yeah, chat, I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Love y'all. Peace.